here. Tired. We're gonna have a lot of political news, and we're gonna have a lot to talk about. So we do have a lot to talk about, um, and we do have a lot. So we have a lot to talk about right now. But as far as things go, um, and related news, right? So okay. So as everybody knows, we are still experiencing a shutdown by the Republicans. Okay, and basically we're experiencing a so this TSA shutdown is still raging. Okay, so this TSA shutdown is still happening. It is still uh, it is still happening. It is still going on. Right. So at the end of the day, and just give me like 2 seconds. I have to readjust something. So bear with me for just a second. We're gonna go to commercial break. We'll be back in just about a minute. Sorry, I already lost. Thursday, however, we start early. We start at 9:15. So, but let's get started. I do apologize. I do apologize for the slight delay, but I also do apologize for the fact that I had to fix some things in the studio for just a second. So I do apologize. Um, Obviously, there are things that I forget to do before the show begins. So that is my fault. Um, there are things I do forget when I do the show. There are things that I always have to forget. Um, there are things that I forget doing the show. So I do apologize. Um, so sincerely do apologize. But let's get started. Okay, so the breaking news here. Um, so we are still in this shutdown. Um, so 2 days. Um, I have so now a few things that we all know is that Donald Trump and and House Republicans have let this shutdown continue. And for those wondering what we do next and what happens next, here's what happens, right? So as we speak, the Senate and the House have just went to recess. So give me like 30 seconds to fix this real quick. 1 2 1 2. Okay. So a few things that I think. Hold on. Oh, sorry. Sorry about that. Um, sorry for the slight movement. Uh, but there are a few things that I think, by far, um, are very frustrating, and to the TSA workers that are out there working, doing their job. Um, it is very stressful that you guys are doing your job while not getting paid. And I think that if you're not getting paid, it's clear who this administration uh, cares about. Oops, sorry. And it's very clear who this administration is carrying favor for. And it is very much to a point where it's dangerous. And it's very much, it's, it's very much where it is, and I have said several times, it is something that this administration does not care about, right? And it takes a while for everybody to realize TSA agents are not getting paid, right? So Senate, the House went to recess because obviously this coming weekend will be Easter. So Easter Sunday is April 5th, and they have gone to recess uh, until after Easter and Passover without there being a consensual consensus on TSA agents getting paid. So while Easter and Passover go over this weekend, so anybody that does celebrate Passover and Easter, I hope that you do have a great Easter. And also those that celebrate Passover, same as well. So that will be said there. Um, and I think that if I don't say it, I think that I will be not chastised, but I do think there will be some repercussions. And I do want to just make sure that I do address that. So I will be just making that clear. Um, but there are some things that we are obviously looking forward to at this point, right? So, um, one second, y'all. See, I try to do these things while you guys are um, like in real time. So, do apologize. Um, uh, yeah, so I try to do these as in real time. So, I do apologize for the slight. Um, so, here's how this is gonna work, right? So, Speaker Johnson, right? So, let me give you a gist of what we've seen, right? So, Democrats proposed 10 times in the Senate and the House a resolution to fund TSA, right? Republicans voted no 10 times to not fund TSA, right? So, obviously, negotiations had to happen to get the Senate version of this TSA funding bill that President Trump did say he would. Now, obviously, in the beginning, he has said he wasn't gonna any deal that they came up to he wasn't happy, and he obviously blocked that part. Now we turn to what happened over last weekend. So that would be over the weekend, Friday. Uh, Senate Senate like last Friday night into Friday morning. They passed a so the Senate, both Democrats and Republicans in the Senate passed a bill, passed a resolution to fund the TSA. It gets passed with unanimous consent, with the fact in that bill, which a lot of people have been upset over, and preferably the House Speaker, have been upset over, is that basically the immigration reforms. So in this TSA funding bill that's not here, this is basically to fund the TSA while they also so that paychecks can start and TSA agents can get paid, Coast Guard can get paid, um, and then everybody else that is in cyber security can also get paid uh, without funding for ICE and Border Patrol. So that was the consensus. That's how we left here on Wednesday. There's a Wednesday with no deal. We were going to probably continue with the shutdown. It was like looking likely. Then the Senate comes on Friday, passes legislation passes their version of the TSA funding bill that would fund the TSA, would fund Coast Guard, and would fund um, cyber intelligence agents. But it wouldn't fund Border Patrol and ICE. Two things that Speaker was upset about, and also not to mention that he was upset that that wasn't voted on, and the president obviously made it clear that he was upset the fact that ICE wasn't getting any more funding. But Republicans obviously came in and said no. Democrats are proposing this. They're gonna fund the TSA, but we're going to negotiate how Democrats basically said, and I applaud the Democrats for this, is Yeah, what we'll do is we'll fund the TSA, fund Coast Guard, fund the cyber intelligence agency we have running in the FBI. We will fund them. We will fund those guys. But we're not. Well, we will leave it up for discussion. Leave it up for negotiations. Possibly when you come back to fund ICE with reforms and also having just ICE Border Patrol funded in the reconciliation, right? So that was the part that they were left Friday on that notion, right? So then it comes to the fact Mike Johnson gets he gets the resolution, um, and he's unhappy. He's visibly unhappy. You could tell that the speaker is very unhappy because he's making clear that he is not going to vote on it, right? So you can tell that the speaker, sorry, that you can tell that the Speaker of the House is very, very adamant in making sure that the TSA. One second, y'all. Do apologize. We're doing this podcast in real time, so it's very like things happen that we cannot control. Obviously, can't control, but we are trying to um, do so. So just bear with me just one moment, and I do appreciate your patience, as I always do. I appreciate your patience. I thank you for taking your time to like really have the patience with us, because I do think it takes a minute to like set up, but it also takes time to like really have the patience to do these things. But I'm gonna show you guys. I'm just gonna both do it. I'm gonna do it both into. Uh, I'm just gonna hold on. Let me just. I'm just gonna do this, and I'm going to put this over here. Give me like 2 seconds, y'all. I'm streaming on two sites. Okay, cool. So now I'm gonna do this video very quick for y'all. All right, so we're gonna start this in real time, both to both sides, right? So I'm gonna leave for a couple minutes. You're gonna get it coming the whole thing. So I'm not like most commentators that you'll see. I don't like I really don't like comment until the very end. There's only times like when we're doing like sensitive like the votes, like vote counting, or when we're doing like other pieces of it. So like the House elections, Senate elections, and then also in 28 with the presidential election, right? So those are the times like I will literally stop like video midway and I will talk as I go along, as we go along. But for these little clips that are being that I do play, I'm just gonna let them play. I'll have a reaction at the end, and then of course we'll talk a little bit more on the other side. And then of course we will look at the so we'll also look at the bill that the Senate has, and also that the bill that the House has, and we'll talk more about it. But for now, take a look at. chime into the last part because it's gonna get a little hostile. Um, so I thought I'd chime in a little. I think that like her framing, and I agree with him. The framing that she has, right, and it is very to a point where she's framing. So she's like, well, and Kristen Walker is, I would say she's a very good reporter. So what I say in commentary to about her questioning doesn't negate the fact that she's a wonderful reporter and she's well respected. But I do think he is correct. Adam Smith is correct. Representative Smith is correct. That her framing of like her framing of like, oh, why don't you just vote for the Senate? You know, why don't you just vote for this continuing resolution? He is right. The Senate has had that over there several times, and the Senate said no. They are not willing to vote for, at least the Senate Democrats on that side, are not willing to vote for this resolution. They have had it over there multiple times. And so his last point is that you wouldn't have a funded TSA. You wouldn't have the 60 days because the senators obviously would not agree to this resolution. And the fact that Mike Johnson wants to play this game and he wants to complain that the Democrats did a gambit at 2:59 in the morning to get a resolution passed, he's the one with the gambit right now. He is the one that is perfectly okay with, oh, we're gonna do the 60-day thing that the Senate's not even gonna pass. So it's gonna sit there. It's gonna sit there for a while, and it is very to a point where it's just like it doesn't make sense, right? Logical sense, no, and it never makes sense because these Republicans will say, in one hand, okay, Democrats should hop onto this, whatever this is, right? Without the fact realizing, and to her framing, I kind of don't. Why this is where I get frustrated because she's asking the question as if there's not two parts of the government, and if they were to vote for it, the problem is Democrats on the Senate side are not going to vote for this because this is basically saying, oh, we're just going to fund everything the way it is. Then we're going to go to that reconciliation process and negotiate. That is not going to work at all because Senate Democrats, House Democrats have said several times the only way that they're going to ever, or that they're going to fund DHS is if ICE has reform, like body cams, unmasked, and they're identified. And that is reasonable. These Republicans are just over here like, oh, well, you can't. They can go into airports unmasked and identified, but no, when they're on our streets, when they are on our streets, they are at risk. They are at harm if they're identified, if they're unmasked. So the hypocrisy there is exactly why we are here. So because one agency decides that they're going to do things un-American and not care about the American people and to do immigration, that the fight is immigration, right? But that as we are reminded, because one agency is not getting funded, everything doesn't get funded. And the Democrats really and it really just goes to show you that like no, the Democrats are willing to fight for whatever they need to fight for. And I do think that the Democrats really have an arm here. And I think that if you are a person who says, okay, if you're a reasonable person, you'd say, okay, Let's vote for the Senate measure. This funds TSA. This funds the Coast Guard. This funds every other part of DHS, but it doesn't fund immigration. And I know a lot of these Republicans gotta understand you're up for re-election in 2026. So a lot of Republicans gonna have to look at this and be like, well, I'm up for election, right? So there are things that you have to understand. Like a lot of these Republicans are up for for seats, and they're up for re-election. So a lot of these Republicans are going to have to rely, really, especially House Republicans are going to have to really, if they're going to be this in this governance, and they're going to govern the way that they're going to govern, something has to get. They have got to do something. They have to do something because a lot of these House Republicans gotta understand it's it's either it's either you vote with the you vote for this measure that the Democrats and Republicans have voted for, or we stay in the path of, oh, we don't want to you know insult or anger their leader, right? And it is very scary the way that the politics are today. The fact that these Republicans are just saying, well, it's Donald Trump. We have to do we didn't have to do what he says or face primary challenges and anything else that he is willing to throw at people. I think that is very dangerous. I think that is also very damning, and it's very telling of how things are and how things are going. So I don't see this. I don't see a lot of things as peaceful. You know, I don't think in any world this makes sense. But it makes so. Let's matter of fact, let's look it up. Let's look up who's up for like Republicans that are in jeopardy of losing their seat this time around. So let's take a look, right? And like I said, we are that public. We are that. Um, so let's do it like this: Republicans up for election, right? Yeah. So so in the House of Representatives, 33 of those seats are up. Right, so and then on the other side, they have um, 5 or 6 House seats, 33 in the U.S. Senate. Or for I'm sorry, 33 are up for elections. So 30, so you have 33 seats in the U.S. Senate that are up for election this time, and then you have 5 of the House seats. 6 non-voting members are also up for election. So Republicans control a 53-45 majority in the Senate, with 2 independents caucus with that the Democrats, so that would be Bernie Sanders and uh, the other senator, I forgot her name. I forgot the other independent because there is another one. The 2 independent caucuses that go with the Democrats all of the time, right? So effectively giving the Democrats 47 for organizational purposes, but they have 53 seats and 45 seats. But they have those 2 independent that go with Democrats, so that gives them now the 53-47 matchup. So then you have over in the House, you have the 218s of 214 with 3 vacancies. So in 26, Democrats really need a net of 4 seats to win the majority. In a, I'm sorry, need a net of 4 to win the Senate, and Republicans can lose no more than 2 seats. Um, I'm sorry. So Democrats need a net of 4 seats. Um, to win a majority in the Senate. Republicans can only lose. They have an affordability of losing 2 seats. So we need four to win. They need two to lose. They need to lose at least 2 seats, right? So as we go forward, right? Um, right. So now in the House of Reps, as a result of the 2024 elections, Republicans have gained 220 to 215 seats. So before the elections, Republican had a 218 and 213 with three vacancies. Uh, one resulting from a death of a Democratic member, one from a Democratic resignation, and one from a Republican resignation. Democrats need to retain two of the vacant seats and gain same thing over there. In the House, they need to regain 2 seats that are vacant, and then they also need to grab a total of 4 seats. So in total, Democrats really need a total of 6 seats. They need a total of 6 seats to win, right? To keep a majority. Um, so that is where that is. So I try to explain to people that like this is where numbers game is really where this goes, right? So hold on, let me just I forget that I'm also doing this in two sections, so I do apologize. But I said that I did. I forgot to do this in 2 seconds. Everybody, just bear with me. Um, Streaming in two different locations. So, all right. So yeah. So the this is where numbers game is really going to really hurt these Republicans, but it's also it looks favorability of the fact that it might hurt Democrats in the process. Um, and I don't say that to be like, oh well, Democrats always lose because Democrats have to have a higher majority, and that's not the case in a lot of things. And I try to say that to people because I'm like, no, everybody tries to say like, oh well, Democrats have a thing of losing, and Democrats are going to lose because they're going to keep losing. No, so no, this is how this works, right? So it's a numbers game. Right now, and this year, it's a, in the House they need six because they need the two vacant and then they need the four uh, flip seats. So they need to flip at least four with two vacants. That's a six number game that Democrats are trying to work over there. Now, also with it also being in the Senate, they also need to jump 4 seats. So they have 47 right now, so they only need about 4 seats that would give them the majority on that side. So everything really just people don't realize that this is a numbers game. So this is a game of numbers. So when it comes to a lot of things that elections have consequences, I always end up saying this, right? So I always end up saying elections have consequences and they have big ones. House and Senate is the same thing. It's a numbers game when elections happen. Um, and a lot of times, what we tend to see, and we tend to see this a lot of times, is that we're gonna have a broken sense of government. We're gonna have a split government this time because we did have it. So we had it last time, and everybody doesn't realize that we had this last time. Um, and just so that everybody's clear, right? So let's take a look, right? So basically, in 24, right? So in 24, right? This is what we had, right? So we had Republicans have the White House, Senate, and the House, right? So past time, how do we go back to? We're gonna go back at least 4 years ago. So we'll go back to 4 years ago, right? Do apologize. But yes. So this was the same matchup that we saw just 4 years ago, right? So Democratic Party had the majority, right? So this is where you had that majority 2020, 2024, right? So in 2020, the Democratic Party held held uh, so in 2018, this starts in 2018, right? So 2018, you have the matchup. 2020, they held the majority in the U.S. House. Democrats also gained control of the chamber in the 2018 elections. So two times with the majority. This will probably be the second time in U.S. history that Trump literally makes these Republicans lose governance. And it'd be shocking to see how these Republicans really look at the fact that, like, yes, he is the reason why we are losing. And this is why we keep losing. We keep losing because we keep electing. First of all, Donald Trump is the president, right? So because of that, because because of that, right? So in 2018 we had the same thing. He was president. They had House, Senate. They lost both um, branches of government in both sides. So they lost both. They lost both, and now and this is the same. This is the in 2020 we lost it um, to these Republicans, um, with it being the Republicans in charge, right, for the House, and in the Senate we literally had the same thing. This time around, they won all three branches of government. So they run the House, run the Senate, and the White House, with him being in the White House, right? But now here's where the issue is now going to lie. And I tell a lot of people this because it makes sense and it matters, right? I tell people this because it matters and it makes sense, right? So this will be the second time that the House and Senate will be up. So this is the first part of the midterms. You'll have the midterms again, 2029, 2030. So you have it in the second year of the presidency. So this will be, so you had it in 25. So now you'll probably have it again uh, later down the line, right? So this is where a lot of people don't realize is that elections have consequences, right? And so part of this, and part of the description that I gave you out before I started, was that elections have consequences. Elections have consequences for actions. So basically, this is going to look like that Republicans are going to lose this majority that they're so loving, like with a slim majority because they don't have a full majority. A full majority is what they don't have. Their majority is very, very much delayed. And people don't realize elections have consequences. So if these Republicans really want to win, keep the majority, they're gonna have to really understand that this it's a numbers game. But if they want to keep following down the path of let's just do whatever Donald Trump tells us to do, you're going to have a problem. You're going to have where you're going to lose. Republicans are going to lose because Republicans are going to continue down this rabbit hole of we're going to do whatever this president wants, even if it costs us, even if it costs us the majority. But that's going to have a consequence for you in 2026. And a lot of people are going to see a lot of this is going to be where you're going to see, and I say this because the framework of it doesn't make sense. Right? The framework of it, when I say it that way, people don't realize it's a little different because the game and the framework that we are seeing, right? So this is the thing, right? So his agenda is very unpopular with the American public. Okay, we see that through the polls. We see that through uh, just recent of like the No Kings protests. So his agenda is unpopular, and in particular, immigration. Immigration has been an issue represent of him, right? Immigration has been an issue past him, but it is the fact that he is doing it in a way that is dangerous and has caused American citizens to be exact, have lost their lives, and American people are waking up. Even the Trump voters that have voted for Trump are waking up. They're starting to realize like this guy is so far down that he is causing all of their problems. And the fact that it is so stark, it is so scary, but it is also so shocking that these Republicans, these people that voted for Trump three times in the last couple of elections. So 2020 and 24, right? And 2018 and 2016. So these people have voted for Trump. And three times, two times rather, they have voted for Trump two times before. And they have been with Trump for 2 whole years. They have been with Trump since 2016. Now we're looking at this where in 20 in, now we're looking at this in 2026 where a lot of these same Trump voters are realizing that Trump is costing them. And a lot of them are realizing like the healthcare is having issues. So I say this to be like, well, it is a good thing that Trump Republicans are some people that voted for Trump and Republicans that voted for him are starting to realize the problem. And I, I for one, I'm loving it. The fact that people that used to like him are are hating this guy, and a lot of people don't realize this guy is hated more than you think. Um, you know, because his bigotry is very withstanding. So he is bigoted. We've known he is bigoted, and the fact that many people don't realize that Donald Trump has been bigoted since he first came out in 2016. But what people forget, and a lot of people, a lot of these Republicans start to forget this. Donald Trump was a Democrat. Now, it is very much where people have got to start realizing and waking up that Donald Trump does not give a fuck about you. Donald Trump does not give a fuck about you unless it is you are voting for him. But when you vote for him, oh, now I care. Now he cares about you. But when once you give him the power to actually do things for you, oh, fuck you, fuck the American people. As long as I got what I currently receive from them, they no longer matter. So my billionaire donors can get more tax breaks, but Americans can lose their health care. It is to a point where people have got to realize that it is very, very, very frustrating. Um, you know, just in general. But it is very frustrating when this president has done things unbecoming of a president. And immigration is his not strong point. And I'm just gonna full screen this real quick. I'm just gonna full screen real quickly. Do apologize. So that I have full version of you guys real quick. Um, but this is what Donald Trump has done, and Donald Trump, and a lot of people are starting to realize, Donald Trump, no one else, but Donald Trump. Right? But Donald Trump, hold on one second, I have to switch this real quick because I think something is happening. Just one, hold on one second, y'all. Apologize. Ladies and gents, I do apologize for the slight delay. Um, we're having like a mic um, issue, so just bear with me momentarily. I do apologize um, for the slight delay, and I do apologize. Um, just bear with me momentarily. I am working to fix that. We're working to fix it right at this moment. So just bear with me momentarily. I'm trying my best to see what is happening with the mic itself. So just we're gonna we're almost had a great show so far. So just bear with me one moment while I try to hold on 1 second. Let me just a few more seconds. I'm working on a fix to the microphone. So just uno momento, por favor. Como we'll be back in about 2 minutes. So for everyone that is watching at this current stage, um, just stand by. We are having a mic problem. So please stand by. We thank you. I thank you for your patience. Um, just bear with me momentarily. Um, one moment, everybody. One moment. Just give me like one moment to fix everything, and I'll be right with y'all shortly. Um, but enjoy the commercial break theme song while I try to fix something in the studio. thank you for your patience. Thank you for your cooperation. Um, we did have a mic problem just a moment ago, and we're working to fix that at the moment. Um, so thank you for your patience. Um, it has been a great show so far. So I do thank you for your patience. I do thank you. I'm just gonna move this one more time. 'Cause I think that's the problem as well. Um, Part of it is because I think it's not in front of me, so I think that's part of the issue. Um, but as a matter of fact, yeah, no, that's what it is. Hold on one second, everybody. All right, so I'm just gonna do this for right this moment. Finish the show, so I'm gonna try. So as it stands, right? So all my folks understand. Hold on one moment. We might have a solution. Might have a solution momentarily. We thank you for your patience. We will be, as we say, that as transit says, we will be moving momentarily. We thank you for your continued patience. So we thank you for your patience. We thank you for your cooperation, and we thank you for simply just allowing us to come in and speak with y'all. Just one second. As we fix this to where this mic is gonna work. All right. So, all right, everybody. Last thing that we do have. Okay, let's have to fix this. All right. So the last thing that I do have for y'all, I'm just gonna move this one more time. Um, and one more thing that I do have for everybody here. Right. So in this, in a lot of things, a lot of times, politics, as I've said several times over that politics is what it is. Right. Politics is going to be what one thing that hold momentarily because this one's not picking up. So hold on, let me make this louder. I think part of the problem is because also this mic is low, so I'm gonna have to make the mic a little louder. So just here with. Okay, so a few things that, and one of those things, and one of those things that I think that we forget as elections happen, we tend to forget. And there's one thing that I have always said, but I think the one thing that everybody forgets, and this is something that I've realized it as time has went on, but people are starting to realize that elections have consequences. And as I said briefly before the break, that elections have consequences no matter who is on the ballot. And I think that largely, and this is largely the groups that normally, you know, minority, like Latino, black and brown people, are in this thing where, and I think it's just general speaking, that I think that, for instance, I think it's been a long time, but this is not just a one time problem. As you've seen over elections, past elections, when a group feels like they've been disenfranchised, when a group feels, one second, y'all, when a group feels that they've been disenfranchised or have been, one second, oh, this has to be screwed in. Oops, I totally forgot about that because it has to be screwed in. One moment, everybody. Please stand by. Fixing this as real time as we are um, on the show. So if you hear a lot of loud thumping, it's just me trying to fix one of the things that we have. in the studio at the moment, so that is what's just hitting the mic. That's what's just hitting the mic, so I had to screw it back in. So thank you for your patience. But yeah, as I've said, and I've said time and time and again, is that not only is it disenfranchised groups, but it is groups that majority feel that they are underrepresented, and a lot of times the groups that feel unrepresented, they tend to vote with the majority at times. And I'm not speaking. I don't speak for everybody once when I say this, but I do think for the area that I grew up in, a lot of people have felt. So I so a little bit, and I usually don't do this because when I talk about this subject, it drives me crazy. But I think that this is more than enough time, right? So, person with mental health deals with a mental health situation, right? And due to the lack of and due to the lack of resources, available in the district, there have been a lot of issues. There have been issues where people feel nothing is being done, right? And so a lot of people turned out in the last election for the House seat. So a lot of people turned out for that election, and a lot of people felt that they were being disenfranchised in that particular district. I grew up in Rockaways, so a lot of people really felt like, our leader, who has been there for 25 plus years, Representative Meeks, who used to represent the district that I grew up in. He represented that district for a while, um, and a lot of people think a lot of people thought that, like, why there's a lot of sentiment and a lot of reasons of like why people in certain districts feel the way they do or they vote the way they do is because of the fact that they're told one thing, right? So Republicans in that election, so a lot of Republicans might have voted in that election, and basically what you start to see is that people are start to realize, like, if you give Republicans power, Republicans are not going to do what they say they're going to do. Even if you have some good faith Republicans in what's already a House of Representatives that is very dangerous, um, and a very immoral representation of um, the American public at large. And I do think that has to be that's an issue that we have to look at. And Republicans will always do what benefits them versus what benefits their and a lot of times people have said to me, uh, and a lot of people have said it, that we have had a lot of issues, and predominantly a lot of the problems that you notice is there's the lack of funding, right? So I think when it comes to certain things, and hold on one moment, I do have to adjust this once. It takes a second because it's usually easier to do. Hold hold on one second, y'all. I'm trying to figure out why this is so annoying. Trying to figure out why this thing is very touchy today. So, I have to hear I have to hear how this sounds on the channel because if I don't hear it, hold on one moment, everybody. Let me just let me just try to. Yeah, so I'm trying to hear how on the stream because I guess a lot of times we I do this in so I do this in real time. A lot of times do I do just make it very clear that like while I'm doing this for y'all, while I might realize that we're well while I do the show, while I do the show, and I love the show so much. Um, I always tend to forget that like I also have to hear it, have to because I also have to know how this mic sounds to people because a lot of times I'll just go for a good we'll go for like a good 2 hours and then we have these issues. So I try to be very flexible. I try to be very careful. Uh, and a lot of times, and I do this a lot. So a lot of people will realize like half the time. So I've done this show. Okay, so I'm gonna see how this works. Let's see how this works out. Um, I'm gonna try to see how this works out because at the end of the day, it has to be loud enough. All right, there we go. So I think that fixes the mic problem entirely. Because I do got to remind people that like yeah, when we do the show, I have to always prepare, um, and I always make sure that like if I do any mic movement, I do say something beforehand. So I've let people know like I'll let you know while I'm in the show, and hey, just the FYI, I have to move a lot of stuff, and I forgot to also put up the. I forgot to put it up. I forgot to put the live with my name on the thing. So it's my bad. So yeah, I do. Um, all right, just one moment. gonna try. Hold on 1 second, everybody. One moment. Yeah, just 1 second, everybody. Um, I'm just gonna be verifying some stuff real quick. Um, matter of fact, I'll do that after the show. I'm not gonna do it now. All right. So I know we talked briefly about this. All right, but let's take a look. Right, let's take a look back at this. Um, let's go with um. All right, so let me go back and do. Okay, I'm gonna do what I did last time. Um, so I'm gonna go. I like this thing because this actually helps see what I need to see here. Okay, so okay. And then of course as we get closer, my bad. Sorry, y'all. My bad. My mistake, y'all. I have forgotten. Forgotten that there is so basically let's. I forgot this because only because I was right. So let's do this right. So who will control Congress in the next election, right? So let's look at this, right? So let's do oh, it is here. It's just not okay. This and let's go to this. Oh yes, let's go. See, I like doing this with y'all because this is fun. So I love doing these type of things with everybody. It's very fun. It's very and I'm gonna do this quickly. So this is called and I'm gonna drop this in the chat. Let me just drop this in the chat real quick. Right. So this is basically what I'm gonna drop in the chat real fast, and I'm gonna drop this in the chat because I want people to. This is gonna be that fun type of podcast that you guys enjoy. And we might actually get an interview next time. So let me. So hold on, let me. All right, hold on. 30 seconds, y'all. It's like matter of fact. All right, I'm just gonna figure this. I'm gonna figure it out after. bring it after the show because I feel like if I do this, it makes my life easier and it makes y'all live. Oh, I am clicking the other one. Oops. Okay. So, is it also? Yeah. So, as we're looking at these type of things, right? So, and here we go, right? So now with this map and the way that this map is drawn, right? So, all right, let me let me do this one. Go back. So the way that this map, hold on, oopsie. Okay, so this map, right, is drawn where 218 Republicans right now and 214 Democrats. Remember what I said. And remember what I said at the top of the show. Remember what I said at the top of the show. There are multiple things. So remember what I said. Okay. So what I said at the top of the show, and I'm going to repeat this again. Elections have consequences. Elections have consequences. So the differential here is, and remember what I said when we were just discussing this a little bit before, is that, so as everybody remembers what I said, and if anybody was listening, this is what I said, right? So this is what I said. So the Democrats right now, as we looked, as we looked at what they need to gain for this for 2026, is that they need to gain a total of 6 seats. So at least two of the so they need at least two. So we need two of the seats where it's basically a vacated seats. So we need at least two of those. And then we've also need on the other side of that, we've also need 4 seats. So that means 4 different states, 4 different seats, and 4 different house seats. So it doesn't have to be like in like Texas, for instance. Let's say we get all 4 of those seats. We get 4 of those seats. The Republicans get one of those seats. That would give the Democrats the 4 seats that they need. Now, the other 2 seats that come from other states, they would need to flip at least 4 or 5 seats extra. So then this gives the same thing where Republicans would also need to keep. They would need to lose. So this is where I say like elections for the House are a little different because they would need to keep six. They would need to keep 6 seats in order for them to keep the majority. Now, when we look at now, Democrats only need 6 or so seats. Democrats need 6 seats. All right, everybody's like, oh well, they need 4 seats to flip, plus the two but they also need two of the vacated seats, so that this way they're also having the 4 seats that gives them a 6 point advantage, right? But then if they have 2 extra seats, it helps that cause. Now, Senate wise, the Republicans can only lose 2 Republican seats in the in the Senate. Democrats need to pick up 4 seats, 4 seats in order to get the Senate back from Republicans. And I think once Democrats start like realizing, okay, we've got to we've got to have like the momentum to strong arm, and we need to mobilize. We need to out campaign these Republicans into where we're able to at least secure the majority in both the House and Senate, so that we can rail in this president. And railing in this president makes sense. We've got to. So the main objective is the broader objective is winning the seats. So once you've started to win seats that you need to win, then we can look at the larger objective is reining in Donald Trump, having hearings on his actions, and then doing a lot of the other work that we need to do, which is re- repealing the making making a law that basically all of those cuts that were done um, are rescinded, and everybody can have their health, keep their health care without those cuts. And then we can also try to redo. So there's not a lot that we can do before 2028, but there is a few things that we can do to make sure that while he is still president, he can't break the law any further or overwrite our constitution, right? So then there is this thing that I talk about, and this is the last thing I got, because we're almost done out of here. We're almost out of here momentarily. Um, but this is the other thing, right? If if we keep going down the path of Republicans, not checking this president in, we're gonna have a problem. So I say this to wrap up uh, real quickly. I say this to wrap up. Um, Hold on, and I'm gonna just stop sharing for 2 moments. But I'm gonna say this as we wrap up this show. Um, as I always say, if you want to continue to watch this show, if you want to keep watching the show, we will have a show every Monday, Friday, um, and then of course the link to both um, the 270 to win, and then the 2026 House election, where you can see what the difference is between seats, um, and of course you can always stay followed up on our um, YouTube channel posts, and I will always post out a video. And also in the post, so I will also not only but in the description, I will give a link to the Discord that we will have, where you can catch up with me and the rest of the team, and also we can also talk about more things in depth. Um, but that's gonna do it here for uh, the political podcast um, with Shaheem Jones. I'm Shaheem Jones, and I want to thank you guys for joining me. Um, and hope that you guys have a good rest of the day, and I hope to see most of you guys in our Discord channel that we will be having. Thank you, everybody, and I hope to see you guys very, very soon. Peace out, everybody. Oh, gotta do those. Okay, thank you.